Hi everyone, my name is Jenny Milkey, and as we look at linguistic diversity in terms of race, class, gender, I looked at the articles Diversity, Superdiversity, and Monolingual Language Ideology in the United States, Tolerance or Intolerance by Terrence Wiley, which was published in the Review of Research and Education, March 2014. For those of you who were in class with me last semester, I am very interested in bilingual education and how creativity and bilingualism intersect, which is why I wanted to look at linguistic diversity. I'm also a complete grammar nerd, or etymology, grammar, linguistics, philology, love everything to do with words. And so I'll intersperse some grammar jokes through here because it was difficult to find pertinent graphics. So, just a quick overview of this presentation. I've got a quick video. We'll go through some terminology that Wiley uses, but also that is important for us linguistic terms that are important for us to understand in talking about this. And then, in accordance with the article, we'll look at tracing U.S. history through the lens of language, census data limitations, and then present-day linguistic prejudice and profiling. For those of you who have not seen the movie My Fair Lady, I've got a very short video clip that takes place in England, but illustrates the concepts that we will be talking about superbly.
Say it again.
The rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain.
The rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain.
Did I say that?
No, Eliza, you didn't say that. You didn't even say that. Every night before you get to bed, where you used to say your prayers, I want you to say, the rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain 50 times. Further with the Lord if you learn not to offend his ears. Now for your H's. Feeling this is going to be ghastly. Show yourself, Higgins. Give the girl a chance. Oh, I suppose you can't expect to get it right the first time. Come here, Eliza, and watch closely. Now. See that flame? Every time you pronounce the letter H correctly, the flame will waver, and every time you drop your H, the flame will remain stationary. That's how you'll know if you've done it correctly and time your ear will hear the difference. See it better in the mirror. Now, carefully. In Hertford, Hereford, and Hampshire, hurricanes hardly ever happen. Now, repeat that out to me. In Hertford, Hereford, and Hampshire, hurricanes hardly ever happen.
In Hertford, Hereford, and Hampshire, hurricanes hardly ever happen.
Oh, no. No ear at all.
Shall I do it over?
No, please. Start from the very beginning. Just do this. Go ha, 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 ha.
Ha, 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 ha.
So for those of you who haven't ever seen My Fair Lady, it is a film from 1964 based on George Bernard Shaw's book or play Pygmalion. And Professor Higgins, right here, wants to see or prove that he can take Eliza Doolittle, who has a Cockney accent, and can fool high society by teaching her how to adjust her speech to what is considered acceptable. And so how does this apply to the article? The kind of three really key ideas from Wiley are monoculturalism, or the ideology of English monolingualism, linguistic discrimination, which he also calls linguicism, and the language tolerance hypothesis, which I won't read these to you. I know you can read, and just so. But these three ideas come up throughout his article. So some more kind of colloquial terms: language, dialect, slang, accent, jargon. So language is made up of different dialects. Each of us speaks what we call an idiolect. So that's each of our individual dialects. But regionally, we tend to group kind of regional speech and accent patterns into dialects, which all come under the umbrella of language. Now, when two dialects are mutually unintelligible, then we come to the kind of what can be a murky area of, is it really a dialect or is it a completely separate language? Now, accent and dialect are different because accent just has to do with the phonology or the sounds that we make and how we pronounce words. And then slang and jargon are kind of specific to different populations or professions. And those are semantic changes, which just means like word choice. Okay, in American English, what is standard? What is considered the standard dialect or the prestige dialect? You know, is it use guys, y'all, you? Okay, we don't know. So the dominant or prestige dialect, which is often called the standard dialect, is an idealization. There is not, nobody speaks it. It is what is in, grammar books. The theory of, the ideal English. And the idea works out in writing, formal writing, following the grammar rules that you learned in school. However, it is not something that is spoken, because we all have different accents and different dialects. So, okay, the United States of America does not have an official language. Yet, let's look at how the languages that we've used back since the very beginning. In 1775, the Continental Congress's first federal expenditure was $500 allocated to Dartmouth College for what they called Indian education or indigenous education. And then in 1789, Congress passed the Nationalism Act of 1790, which declared that citizenship was limited to whites and or people of European descent. In the early years, it really, monolingualism really focused on the indigenous people, or Native Americans. And in 1819, the Civilization Fund Act authorized funds for the encouragement of schooling amongst the Indians, which could also be interpreted as cultural genocide, with the Trail of Tears and the removal of children from their families, being placed with other children who spoke different languages, or so that they would be forced to learn English. And then in 1831, the Supreme Court ruling in the Cherokee Nation versus Georgia case was that the people indigenous to North America were considered domestic foreigners. Then something that I hadn't really given a whole lot of thought, but during World War I and the post-World War I era, 34 states passed policies that mandated English as the official language and forbid languages like German from being taught out of fear. This is interesting for me personally because from the My Peeps project, this is about the time when my great-grandfather changed his last name to more Americanized, or one of his last names to be more Americanized. Okay, so really quickly, in the 1930s, there was a shift in federal policy. In 1960, we started getting more thorough census data because up until this point, the census had only collected surveys from white people, because those were the people considered citizens. And then in 1965, immigration law changed alongside the civil rights movement. So here we've got the data from the last 3 censuses. And while there are lots of limitations to census data, the government is offering the census in so many more languages this year. And so this chart was put together in 2013, but it shows you the changes of the top languages spoken in the U.S. So I really want to get to this 2 short video clips on linguistic prejudice and profiling today.
But language can define you just as much as the color of your skin. At the main bus station, we meet John Baugh, a professor of linguistics from Stanford University in California. John joins us in Detroit to demonstrate an experiment he's been conducting for years about how Americans react to different accents. It's called linguistic profiling. First, he checks the rental housing section in the city paper. Then he calls properties that are advertised for rent. He calls first using an African-American accent.
Yes, my name is Michael Davis. I was calling to see if you might have any houses for rent that might be available.
Then he calls again, speaking with a Latino accent.
Hello, this is Juan Ramirez. I'm calling about the apartment you have advertised in the paper. Yes. All right.
Finally, he calls in a perfectly neutral American accent, which is, in fact, how he really talks.
What kind of results are you getting? I've actually been getting some mixed results today, but generally speaking, the minority dialects do not fare as well, and particularly in the affluent communities.
Is that race or economic class?
It's both. Race in and of itself will not be the factor that excludes one from a particular neighborhood or a house for sale in an affluent community.
Black people will often try to sound more white.
Yes, Mr. Ribbon, I would love to have the opportunity to sit with you to discuss some of our products.
It's a form of code switching, or in this case, alternating between 2 different dialects.
Did you try to grab me by my collar, right? That's not... good morning, customer service. My name is Philip.
Black people talking white is having a real moment in media right now. Sorry to Bother You is a movie about a black salesman whose career only takes off when he starts talking white.
You want to make some money here? Use your white voice.
Hey, Mr. Kramer, this is Langston from Regalview.
And Black Klansman is a movie about a black detective who infiltrates the KKK by pretending to be white over the phone.
God bless white America.
The idea is to speak in what's called the standard accent.
The standard accent is the one spoken by the majority group or the socially advantaged group.
Olivia King is a psychologist at Harvard. She's working on a project that explores the hidden biases we hold.
If you speak with the standard accent, you're judged as being more intelligent, more competent, more credible, more hireable. Now having a regional accent or a non-standard accent, now you're not getting those advantages. You're seen as less credible or less hireable.
These biases are implicit. This isn't Charlottesville tiki torch racism. It's much more discreet than that.
Both of those video clips can be found in full at businessinsider.com. I've included the link here. I also wanted to just kind of recommend a book called Language Myths that we used in my Introduction to Linguistics class. These are some of the myths that addressed in the book, and it's a great read, great quick read if this is something of interest to you. And then finally, our discussion questions. I will also post these in the discussion board, and I can't wait to hear your feedback. Thank you.